TCT presents Public Report, a look at the issues and events of importance to our viewing area. Now, here's your host.
Welcome. I am Chrissy Wafers, your host for this edition of Public Report. Today's issue is young entrepreneurs. And today we have an exciting young lady who's our guest, and she's the author. She's written several books, and she's here to talk to us about her work. I'd like to welcome the author of Superkid to the show, Miss Christina Barr. Hi, Christina.
Hi, how you doing?
Doing great. Welcome to the show. We're so excited to have you here today.
Excited to be here.
Okay, well, we want to know more about the book. We want to know more about you. So let's start by meeting the author. Tell us, when did you start writing? Who are you?
Well, I've always been writing my whole entire life. I started really writing songs as far back as I can remember, and I traveled with my dad. He's a minister, and started recording some things. I wrote a song called The Clay that sung all over the world when I was only 12 years old. And I started writing novels about 4 years ago. I'd gone to CCS for a little bit, and then I saw kind of the success that the movie The Twilight was having, and I'm like, well, you know what, let me look at this. Let me see if I can do this. So I read that book, and I'm like, I can totally do this myself.
Okay.
So I got the idea for my first novel, and then I started writing a sequel, and then I wrote a next book after that, and I'm like, well, I need to write some other books just besides this series. So I started writing some other books, and Superkid was maybe the fifth one that I wrote, but it's the first one that I published, and right now, I've completed 7 books right now, and I also run a pop culture website called The Gorgeous Geeks with my sisters, and we travel to different conventions. We interview celebrities, review television shows and movies, and talk about comic books and sci-fi. Our tagline is discussing all things geeky, and I'm only 23.
Wow, that's pretty impressive at only 23. So you enjoy writing. Where did that start? What sparked your interest?
I can't really say, besides a God-given talent to do it. I've always just loved to write music, and I really lost myself in writing novels. If I'm uninterrupted on my computer all day long, that is a good day for me. I just love to just write. I'm working on 3 novels right now. I wish I could split myself into different people so I could just
get everything done
all at once. But it's all about the journey, so I'll get there when I get there, but I just love to write.
Absolutely, that's great. Well, I want to talk about Superkid. This is an awesome book, Superkid. I'm seeing some action heroes, it looks like. Can you tell us about Superkid? What's the book about?
Superkid is about a little boy named Felix Brown. He has an overactive imagination, and he actually believes that he has superpowers. So he puts on his baby blanket and tries to do good, and there's this little girl in his class named Kiara who has a huge crush on him, which he's not aware of. So she goes along with it and says that she has superpowers too, and they go around the community doing good. She becomes Princess Lady Diva. And so they actually help out this other kid in their neighborhood named Lee. And so he thinks the 2 of them have superpowers. So he like begs them. He's like, will you please train me? My sister knows karate, so I kind of know some stuff. And I have a stick. And
so he wants to be part of the team.
So they train him vigorously. And he becomes like the Batman of their like little Justice League. And they go around trying to save the world as much as little kids, possibly can.
That's a pretty exciting story. And it sounds like it's very imaginative, a lot of good information there. Now, can you break down these characters? You have 3 characters in the story, is that right?
Yes.
Main characters.
Felix is the main character. Like I say, he's very imaginative. He kind of believes that his parents are the most boring people on the planet. Even in his origin, he kind of makes up these fake parents, like the dad's a president and the mom's humanitarian, a race car driver, and like,
wow.
He makes up all these ingredients that God gave him to become who he is. And the main ingredient is awesome sauce.
Awesome sauce.
Yes, and awesome sauce, people don't know this, but there's a drop of awesome sauce in everybody, so God has a piece of himself in everybody. But the more awesome sauce drops you have, the more awesome you actually are.
Wow.
So he had the most ever, which is 10 whole drops.
Okay, awesome sauce. I need to get some. I like that.
And so Kiara is a very intelligent little girl. She has an Afro puff because, that's what we were all rocking back in the day when we were kids. And so she's way too smart for her age. And she kind of has a little problem with telling fibs, and they just kind of spout right out. But don't fear parents, because she kind of learns a lesson at the end about why, you know, she shouldn't tell lies. But she really likes Felix, and she keeps him from doing dangerous things. Like, she's like, don't jump off any rooftops. He's like, what if it's a little one? She's like, no rooftops. So she keeps him safe, but kind of is the reason why he kind of goes deeper into his fantasy. But, you know, they all have fun. And Lee is Chinese. He is he's the youngest of the group. He's in kindergarten, and he's like the funny little kid that, you know, just how little kids say things, or they do things, or they might cry or something. For some reason, it's just, you know, like, oh, my baby, it's so, like, adorable. He's like that kid.
Okay.
And so he's a funny character.
And when you mentioned, you said, now, I'm noticing some diversity in the characters. Talk to me about that.
Well, Felix, I decided his ethnic background, he's Mexican and white. I was looking up, I wanted very common names to contrast to his big imagination. So when I was looking at common names in the U.S., I got to Felix. I'm like, well, I don't personally know a lot of people named Felix. So I just went ahead and picked Felix because it was like ordinary, but still not too ordinary for me. And so I just decided on his racial background right then and there. It was just like a quick decision. And so when I came up with the character Princess Lady Diva, it was just like, you know, this girl just has to be African American.
Right.
Just had to be. And
Princess
so
Lady Diva.
it was also important because, like I said, with our pop culture website, we go and travel different conventions. And the last one I went to, someone said, you know, why don't you guys dress up? And I said, well, if I wanted to dress up like, you know, these characters, I kind of want to look like them. And there's not a lot of, you know, African-American females, especially if you're a little girl. So I wanted them to be able to say, you know what, you know, that person looks like me, and I feel like I can relate to that person. And so then I threw in another character because I wanted Asians to feel represented as well. So that's when I created Lee. And his character, Stickman, is actually I guess you can't say real life, but that was the character my dad actually had when that he made up to go save Halloween for his sisters one night.
Oh, that's great. It's kind of funny. And I'm glad you segued into that, because I want to talk about that. So now tell me, is your dad into this as well, or did he inspire you to write? Or?
He was inspiration for it. I think I started writing it before I even told him about it, but he's been telling us these stories about his childhood, his whole entire life. And so I'm like, well, you know what? I might as well write a book about it. So a lot of the stories that the main character, Felix goes through, if you read it and you're like, that's really crazy, it probably happened.
Oh,
so it's
inspired by true stories?
It is inspired by true stories. So, and even all the other characters, little things that they do. Superkid has this thing called the super jump. I did that to everybody. I just go around and jump in the air and sit on somebody and yell super jump. And so that's one thing that's a part of me that's in the book. And my sisters, certain things they did, like Kiara mentioned something about how she could navigate, because one time when she was 3, she navigated across the mall to find the Easter Bunny. That happened to my little sister. We lost her in the mall one time, and so we were really wigging out, and the security guard saw her standing. She's the only kid in line without a parent, so that's how they found her. And we're like, how did she figure out how to get back to here from all the way where we were?
She was on an Easter Bunny hunt.
She was on an Easter Bunny hunt. And I understand. I never wanted to kind of see the Easter Bunny, but...
Right, but she was into it. So talk to me. Now, this book, Superkid, what age group is it targeted to? What type of ages?
The age group is... The primary age group is 6 to 12, but I've gotten... people from all across the board who have really liked the book. It's a good book, I'd say, for parents to read with their children or to their children. I think the youngest you could probably pick it up and maybe read it by yourself might be about 6 years old, but there's a lot of in-depth themes in it that I said, really, if I was a middle schooler, this would probably be the type of book that we would read and do essays on, because there's enough vocabulary and themes within the book that you could actually study and go off of. And then I've heard old grandmothers say, you know, I couldn't put it down. I need to know what little Felix is going to do next.
Really? Wow.
So I've been very pleased with the feedback all across the board, from little kids who can't even read to their grandmothers.
Absolutely, and that's pretty exciting though, and that's the idea is that the book will kind of cross over and that others are interested. And so you were inspired to write this book from some of the sermons and also just from some life experiences, you were saying?
Well, there's a lot of family values in there. So yes, as far as some sermons, but just some of the story. My dad's a talker, and he just like, even to this day, he like told me a new story the other day, and I'm like, not every story is gonna make it in the book.
Oh, he wanted that story in the book.
Well, not this one, because I'm working on a sequel too.
Okay.
So like, there was one story in particular. He's like, that's a great story. It's not in the book. I'm like, it's in the next one.
Okay.
The next one.
Well, that's great though to have that type of support. Talk to me about that type of support. You're talking about family values. Talk to me about the value of having a father who supports you in that way.
Well, it really is a blessing. He was the one who kind of pushed me to self-publish the book, because I'd gone the publishing route trying to get an agent, and so we've been waiting for a while. And it's not that I'm stopping the process from doing that, but they're like, well, you might as well just go ahead and throw yourself out there. And so everyone was like, whatever you do, I'll have your back. So I went ahead and I did it. If I need somebody to drive me to somewhere, or drive with me, or navigate, because I'm not too good with directions, they're there to do that. And they helped me get the money together to even get it edited. And so it's a real blessing to have a family that will back you.
And that's important. And you were talking about the publishing, and I wanted to dig a little deeper into that as well. What would you say to well, actually, can you tell us a little bit more about the publishing process and what you had to do there?
Well, most companies won't take any unsolicited material, so you need to get a literary agent. And so you'd have to make a query letter, which is like a summary about who you are in your book, and address the agent. Don't try to do like a multiple, thing. Get some books about it, do some research online. Try to figure out something about the person you're actually sending it to, and go ahead and send it out. And don't take rejection too personal. And I even got some nice rejections, like, you know what, this is a really great idea, and you're gonna find great success with it. But it's just not for me at the time. I'm just like,
oh wow.
Like, if you're not gonna be successful, how come it's not your kind of book?
Right, exactly. If it's so good, come on, let's work together. Indeed.
But it is a grueling process, and you kind of have to have a thick skin to go through it. But as far as the self-publishing process, it's not as hard as it used to be, because before, you'd order all your copies and having them sitting up in a warehouse. Nowadays, you can just be print on demand. Like, I went through CreateSpace, a company through Amazon. The customer service was great, which was a big deal for me. I wanted someone I could call. I didn't want to wait up for no email. If there's an issue, I just call up somebody and say, I have an issue right now, and I need your help. And so I paid them for the editing service, and they have marketing tools and different things, but I formatted it all myself, and so the only thing I really paid was to get the book shipped and made, and for the editing, and that was about it. In Kindle, you can just go ahead and go to their website and publish a book and format and everything, and it'll be up within like 12 hours. So it's really simple. Yeah,
and I was looking at the book and the characters, and those are pretty good designs and illustrations. Now, you did the illustrations as well?
I did. I didn't originally want to, because I just didn't honestly feel like it. And I've been writing for so long that I kind of hadn't drawn a lot lately. And so I tried to get someone else to do it, but they were really busy with school, and I was on a time crunch, so I just went ahead and did it. But I'm glad I did, because I really like my characters, and I get warm fuzzies when I look at them.
Yeah, because it's almost like this is it's a project. It's like you've birthed a project here, and then you have the visual. You know exactly, like with the lady Princess Diva with Princess Lady Diva with her Afro puff, and then the superhero here and with the stick. It's like you've been able to really bring them to life.
Even her little hair balls that she has, that's holding her ponytail together, my mom put those in our hair all the time, those little balls and barrettes and stuff. So it's like taking these pieces, out of our childhood, and so I'm glad I actually did it.
And you were talking earlier about some of the different themes and how heavy the book is, and I know today, in today's society, there's a really tough subject of bullying. And it's gotten really out of hand. I mean, if you think about some of the stories that we hear, they're actually heart-wrenching. Do you speak to bullying in the book, and can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, that's a very big theme in the book. Sometimes Felix does kind of do something to embarrass himself in the book, but I won't spoil it. But Sometimes when you are a special child or you're a bit maybe extraordinary or out of the box, people target you. And that's kind of the case of Felix. So he has to find a way on how he's going to deal with it, whether, you know, it's verbally or physically or what. And he gets, you know, advice from his father, advice from his teachers about what he should do. And he gets interesting and good advice from everybody, but he has to find a way what works best, because not all kids are the same. When I was a kid in school, we did peer mediation, and I remember one exercise we did, and about people, you know, name calling you and stuff, and just not letting it get to you. And so I feel like we need to kind of have thicker skin. I know there are some assaults going on that just needs to just stop. I don't know where the teachers are or what's going on with that, but that needs to stop.
Right.
But I think we need to build children's self-esteem again.
Right.
And not kind of, I don't want to say coddle them, but I guess I do want to say coddle them.
Yeah, because when you get out here in society, there's so many different things that we encounter, and we have to learn how to be strong and how to address these issues without allowing it to overtake us and send us into a depression or send us into a weird place. So that's pretty good. It's kind of like the inverse. In addition to anti-bullying, it's also about self-esteem and building. And so that gives us a little more insight on what we can do from that standpoint. So that's pretty good.
That's some of the advice that he gets, like, from his father and his teacher, like, not to let it bother you. Or his dad basically said, you know, I was picked on when I was a child, but, you know, when that happened, I said, you know what, I'm going to grow up and I'm going to be successful, and kind of use it for my fuel. And he's like, well, what happened to the people who bully you? He said, they write me big checks and I go buy you toys. Wow. So that was his dad's advice, but Felix kind of does take some things into his own hand, and his mother's like, you know what, you want to kind of step back from the situation and make sure that you don't become the thing that you're fighting against. So, which is another theme of superheroes, you know, don't become the evil you're fighting against.
Don't become the evil you're fighting against. That's pretty intense. And we're kind of on this subject of young entrepreneurship and writing the book, and I'm pretty impressed with the steps that you've taken so far. What words of wisdom would you give to aspiring writers who want to kind of follow the path that you're taking?
I would say don't ever give up. Don't sell yourself short. If you can do something yourself, though you can have a lot of support from friends and family, but your biggest support will always be yourself. And you have to be strong. And if you have to be determined to really get what you want done. And if I have a project and something that I want to do, I know it's going to get done. I was in school once, and we had to do a group project, and I said, you know what? I just want to do it by myself because I know I'll get it done. Right. And so some other group had an error situation when somebody didn't email them something, and they weren't there at school that day, and the teacher was going to mark them down, which I thought was kind of harsh. But he's like, well, you maybe should have been like Christina. She said, I don't trust people. and I got like extra credit for that particular assignment because I went above and beyond. And don't be afraid to go above and beyond, and don't settle for mediocre. Always do your absolute best. Always have a backup plan. Don't just stop with one thing. Like I said, I got 7 books right now. This is the first one I've published, but I got 7 right now. I'm working on 3 right now. I've always got ideas. Always use as many avenues as you can. I wrote this as a book. I'm looking into doing cartoons. I'm looking into talking to people for financing movies right now for it. Wow. So hopefully I get that off the ground as well, because I want to see this as a film so bad. And I think it would be like the next like Little Giants or Diary of a Wimpy Kid, like one of those movies that you watch over and over and over again. You're like, I watched this when I was a kid, and you show it to your kids. And so always do whatever you can.
Yeah, these characters are pretty exciting. I would love to kind of see their adventures play out. It's kind of nice when you read the book, you're able to place yourself in that time and kind of see what's going on and use your imagination. That's a great thing. But then when you can take that book and bring it to life in the form of a cartoon or a movie, that's even more exciting. So that's really great. It sounds like you're really moving forward here. And I want to talk a little bit more about some of the themes in the book. We talked about the bullying aspect, the family support on your end, but does the book also talk about family?
Yes. The relationship between Felix and his father is kind of really deep, because at first maybe you think it's a little shallow, like he's like, oh, he's so old when he's only like 30. or barely 30. He's a dentist, so he's like, it's like the scariest profession, like, to a kid. 'Cause
Right.
he drills in people's teeth and tell kids not to eat candy and
Right.
all this crazy nonsense. So he's just not particularly as close to his dad as he is to his mom, who's like fun, and his dad's kind of like, you know, I'm off at work, and you know. And so he has to have a revelation later in the book that his dad isn't exactly who he thinks he is. And Felix realizes, you know, that he's not exactly who he thinks he is. And there's, I don't want to give it away, because if you read it, it's kind of an emotional scene, and that's where people kind of cry when they read that particular part. But between Felix and his father, they just have an understanding. And Felix's father, he's, sometimes in the book you're like, well, that's a little harsh, or that wasn't like the greatest thing that you just did right there. But he kind of explains to him why he is the way that he is. And I'll just go ahead and say it. He had there's a situation with his father, and he tells Felix, he's like, I want to know when I'm doing something that's wrong in you, because I want to fix it, because it'll fix me. So I think it's a great book for fathers to read with their children.
Right.
And I think maybe it would even heal some hurts from fathers who didn't have a father. And that's something that Felix's father has gone through in the book, and so he's, you know, kind of struggling to raise his firstborn. And so it's a really good connection.
Indeed, that sounds awesome. Now, this book is pretty inspiring. How do people attain a copy of the book?
You can get it on your Kindle, or you can go to Amazon.com and get the paperback. And to find more information, or to be a fan of, you know, Facebook, go ahead, go facebook.com/superkidthebook, like it today, and write a nice comment or something.
Exactly. That sounds great. And you said it's targeted to the age group 6 to 12, but anyone can buy this book. Is that right?
You know, so far I've kind of gotten more feedback from adults.
Really?
who really, really enjoyed it. Like someone told me that they hadn't really cried that much since they watched Toy Story 3, and I'm like, wow.
Really?
And there's a lot of laughter in the book. It is a really hilarious book, just because it's kind of like reading kids say the darndest things.
Okay.
And for adults, they kind of feel like, well, they remember back to when they were a kid and they did these crazy kind of things, and so it brings them back to a time when the world was bright and anything could happen. And the kids are reading it, relating it immediately to what they're going through or what they're doing. And so it's just for all ages. It would be a family film if it comes out as a film, and it's a family book.
Okay. And so now, with all of the book writing that you're doing and the business with your sisters, I just want to talk a little bit about the author again. I want to talk about your purpose and living out your purpose. You're so inspired about your writing. You get passionate. I can just see the glow that overtakes you when you talk about your projects. So can you talk to me a little bit more about working in your passion and what this does for you as a young entrepreneur?
Well, a personal goal for me, like I saw years ago about some kind of report about the youngest people under 25 on the Forbes list. I'm like, you know what, I want to be on that list.
Wow.
So I got 2 years, and I know I can do it. And so that's my goal. Whether I get there or not, you have to have a really strong goal. And with all of my writing, whether it's light or dark, I always want there to be a positive message that you can pull out of. Like my sister said, she really likes Goodfellas. And she said the message she got out of that was, don't like the glitz and the glamour. And even though he had, you know, all these goals that weren't morally upright, it all kind of exploded in his face. And that's what she got out of the movie. Like other people like, don't snitch, or I don't know, like some kind of crazy thing like that. But that's what she took out of the movie.
Right.
So I always kind of want to enhance a moral message at the end of the day, whether the characters learn the hard way or if it's fun or light. And so that's my goal at the end of the day when I'm writing something. And I do want to inspire people to get that out there and fulfill their dreams, because this is something that makes me so incredibly happy. And I hope that everybody can find something in life that's not just a job, that's a career that they really enjoy doing.
Indeed, yeah, and that's the whole key, is to actually live out your purpose and to do what you were designed to do and to do it well. And this is pretty exciting. I mean, to be able to write 7 books, and then with the Superkid, it's definitely encouragement to other young women and young entrepreneurs out there. So now, did you go to school for writing, or is this something you were?
Well, I've always been a good writer, and I had some honors classes in writing and took creative writing classes, but not particularly when I went to college. But I was really focused heavily on art, and I thought I was going to go into animation when I went to CCS, but financially some things didn't work out, and so I went back and I kind of looked at my life, and I just started writing, and that's where I really dug deep into the passion of writing, which doesn't mean I can't do animation, because you need to write stories for animation, and I'd like to do animation in video games and movies and everything. Actually, for the Gorgeous Geeks, we did a parody on our website, our YouTube website, for the show Lost, and Time Magazine actually featured on that on their website.
Wow, that's impressive.
They didn't tell me that. I just stumbled upon it. I'm like, what? I wish I would have told me.
Right, exactly. That is awesome. And I'm so glad that you were candid enough to open up and to share that whole story in terms of the educational piece, because there are a lot of people who have dreams and desires, and at some point in our life, sometimes we encounter different struggles, whether it be a financial struggle or whether it's, whatever the case may be. But I think that what your story helps to illuminate is that you can get creative, think outside of the box, and still pursue your passion and dream. And sometimes it's not always the typical route that people expect, or that people have come to believe that that's the way it should go. Sometimes you have to kind of get creative and go a different route. And there's more than one way to get to a destination, and it's so exciting to see that you've taken that creative route.
Well, you don't ever let something knock you down. You always get back on your feet, and whether your goals have to change or your route to your destination has to change, just make sure that you get up and you start working on it again. And don't let your dream die.
Absolutely. Don't let your dream die. I think that's a good place to end there. Don't let your dream die. I am encouraging you all, get online, go to Amazon, check it out, Superkid, order that book, change your life, and do what you've been called to do. This has been another edition of Special Report. I'm your host, Chrissy Wafers. Thank you for watching.
This has been Public Report. Public Report discusses the issues of interest and importance to our viewing area. Please remember that the views expressed by our guests are their own and do not necessarily represent the views of TCT or the station.